Hey everyone, welcome to the Wands and Daggers show. My name's Daniel. This is Joe. Today we're going to talk to you about my 3 top tips for running a horror session.
So when you're running the horse session, let's start off with just your best tip right now. For anyone who wants to just get out of this video and try something, what would be the number one thing you tell them?
The number one thing you have to keep in mind at all times is that what you're trying to do in a horror session is you're trying to break their expectation of what's around them, not break rules. So when you set what is going on in this session, like maybe there's a demon inhabiting this house or a ghost or something like that, you can do all kinds of weird stuff, but you have to know what the rules there are and never break them because a single inconsistency can really ruin the entire atmosphere.
So do you have a good example of being strict with the rulings?
Yeah, so one of the things that happened in a session I ran recently, they were in this haunted house, and I had decided an effect for this house where people that were inside of it could not hear the people outside. And the reason for this was the inside of the house was actually, in a way, not quite, but in a way, its own almost separate pocket dimension that was being created by this demon that was also inhabiting the house. So whenever they were doing all sorts of things, they couldn't hear what was happening on either side, and one of the players stayed outside. So when something happened inside, where someone picked up a chair and threw it out a window, I had to figure out how that would work with this lack of sound. So I had to be consistent with that. They didn't hear the actual sound of the glass breaking, but when the chair landed outside, they heard the thud of the chair land with no sound of it exiting. So that kind of thing, where this unsettling thing, where even some of the players know other players received some information, even as simple as audio information, and others didn't. It establishes this sort of unease where, oh, maybe there's something happening that none of the players are around that they don't know about.
So with the audio, is it when they're inside they only hear stuff that's happening outside?
It's when they were inside, they only heard stuff that was happening in the house because it was like its own separate sort of dimension.
Okay.
Whereas when they were outside, they couldn't hear what was inside because it was its own sort of separate dimension. So, like, one person was trying to Eldritch Blast their way into the cellar door on the outside, and the people inside couldn't hear the Eldritch Blasts happening. They just thought it was all calm outside. Denying some players information, or some characters information, it not only does it make it uneasy just because they don't know if there's things they don't hear because no one's in that vicinity, it also makes them a little uneasy because now they don't know if they can even contact their comrades and get help because they just might not hear each other.
Okay. So you set a good precedent of if you go somewhere, you might not always be able to hear your ally. Thus, even walking into a new room, who knows if this effect's going to happen again. So to do anything to break that would essentially break the disbelief in what's happening around them. Thus, ruin the atmosphere you've already built around.
Exactly. The second big tip that I would move on to is when you're actually describing some sort of creature or scenario that someone's in, that will always help you sort of heighten that atmosphere is when you exaggerate features that the player can already imagine. One of my favorites to use is if they're looking at anything that they have a recognizable face to think of. Think of another person or a dog or something like that, and you describe how its mouth, where the lips should end, it's torn open, and the mouth is impossibly wide with more teeth than should be there, and things like that. So exaggerating features and mannerisms in creatures that the players can already picture well enough on their own can also help to build that unsettling atmosphere. The third tip that I would give, and this one's more of an out-of-game thing, is playing the right kind of ambient noise, like playing some creepy music. Whether it's music box music or you go online and search creepy forest ambience or something like that, something related to the area you're in, doing that kind of thing can really help even just subconsciously establish that they're somewhere that they don't want to be, but they have to be here for reason X, Y, or Z.
So yeah, it's another attempt to subvert what they're expecting. they're no longer coming in for a simple game of D&D. All of a sudden now, as you're talking, even without you saying anything or waiting for them to respond, they now have to sit on this loop or tracks of just slightly off, like a settling house with boards creaking on it. That's always going to be in the back of their mind, triggering them that something's off.
Exactly. Plus, a little sub tip for you that I ran into with that recent session: always make sure you're using or signed into something that won't play ads in the middle of your video or in the middle of your session. Because it's real immersion breaking when they're listening to this creepy music and then some ad about Tic Tacs pops up. Always make sure you're not going to get ads. Pro tip.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Pop that up in text.
A little thing that says Tic Tac, give us money.
just scroll past really fast. Just hashtag not sponsored, but hey, Tic Tacs if you wanna. So anyway, that's been my 3 biggest tips for running a horror session. If you have any good tips that you want to give, just go ahead and throw them down in the comments. I'd love to read them. That being said, this has been Joe, I've been Daniel, and we'll see you guys